There's a new number one in Brandon Marcello's power rankings this week. Ohio State leapfrogs Indiana despite the Hoosiers' comeback win at Penn State. Fallout from the Big 12's marquee game of the weekend sees Texas Tech move up 2 spots to 8. BYU drops to 14. There are also 2 G5 schools here that are rated. I'm Tommy Tran with Brandon Marcello, who puts the power rankings together, and we do have a Cover 3 representative, Chip Patterson, in for Danny Cannell with any agreements or disagreements and nice context to what we're saying here. Let's start with Oregon, which remained essentially the same for you, Brandon, given their win, given the shortfalls that they had in terms of their roster size coming to that game with Iowa. Give me the sense of the Ducks after their victory on the road in that weather.
I felt the same that I do today that I did before the game. I thought they should go in and be able to pull out a close win. And what's incredible about this Ducks team is for the first time in their 2 seasons in the Big Ten, this actually felt like they had to win a Big Ten type of game where they had to grind it out. They had to run the ball very successfully to be able to pull out a win and then be able to kick a field goal to win it there at the end. Almost every team in the Big Ten at some point over the last 5 or 10 years has had to do something similar to beat the Hawkeyes, and Oregon proved that they can do that. Everybody's always kind of viewed this team as flashy or whatever, but they have never been that under Dan Lanning. It's just that a lot of their games have allowed them to be able to perform in a sense where you're going to see explosive big plays in the passing game. But in this game, they had to grind it out in that weather, that Big Ten type weather, and for the first time in these 2 years here in the Big Ten, we saw the Ducks be able to do so. But meanwhile, Iowa also proved to me what I saw for the last few weeks. I've always kind of believed they were about a top 20 team based off of the performances we saw earlier this season, including against Indiana. Up until this past week, it was the best game of an opponent that Indiana had faced all season in a 5-point win against Iowa. And Iowa has proven again and again that they just kind of drag teams down to their level. They play their type of football. And listen, Iowa had a chance in this game, and if these teams play 3 times, Iowa wins 1 of those or maybe 2 of those.
See, I think this is really fun because this is when we talk about ranking and rating and a power ranking. You know, what are you going to take right now versus a resume ranking? Because in terms of a resume, I think going into Iowa City against that Iowa team, winning like that, it was one of the best wins that we saw across the country. But if you want to take a little bit more of a power ratings perspective and then apply it to power rankings, I think it's undeniable that this Oregon team does not have the same offensive ceiling when you're down to Corian Moore, when you're down one of your tackles, and in that game, you see Gary Bryant Jr. go down with an injury. Kenyon Sadiq also missed time there. Now, look, Oregon is going to have different messaging about the availability of these players and the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. You know, there's going to be some politicking there, but I think it's very interesting because Oregon at this point is in that split where if I am rating Oregon based on my prediction for what a point spread would be, I have lowered them coming out of the weekend, not because of the close result, but because of their personnel. Yet at the same time, I am more enthused by the fact that the Ducks were able to run for 250 yards and get it done in a Big Ten fashion. Just kind of one of those, are we ranking? Are we rating? Are we making a point spread? We rewarding resumes? Oregon's a fascinating team for that conversation.
No doubt. The initial rankings versus poll, of course, had the Ducks at 6. CFP had them at 9. Brandon's got them somewhere in the middle with 7 there. So we'll continue to keep tabs on the Ducks, of course, and those top-heavy teams in the Big Ten. If we get to the Big 12, Brandon, Texas Tech beats BYU in a 7v8 matchup over the weekend here. And the consensus after the show was that elite defense for Texas Tech, but they're only going to go as far as Baron Morton and this offense can take them. Is that in line with what your thinking is with this particular team?
Yeah, it's like Texas Tech every single game. I watch one and I go, they should have scored 2 more touchdowns in that. And I just felt that way once again in this game against BYU. I mean, you look at the point spread, the way they're able to win by 3 touchdowns, you go, that looks impressive on paper. But again, when you're watching the game, you're like, they should have scored 2 more touchdowns. They should have done something more there on offense. And you're right, the defense has been elite. That's been their strength all season, especially in the trenches, both offensively and defensively. But there's just something nagging nagging at me, and you see it every game when you watch them, drive after drive after drive. They kind of just get hung up on themselves. We even saw it late in the first half, right before halftime against BYU, where you thought they were going to go in and score a touchdown, and then they get stopped right on the goal line. There's just something there that just kind of is missing right now from keeping this Texas Tech team from being a top 5 roster, or excuse me, I should say top 5 resume going into these final 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, sometimes a field goal's worth 3. Sometimes it's -4 in my eyes. A lot of red zone opportunities for Texas Tech, the way that they're able to get good field position advantages. Not a lot of touchdowns. How about the Texas Tech Red Raiders? 13th in the Big 12, 108th nationally in red zone touchdown percentage. That means the number of red zone opportunities you get. How often are you getting into the end zone? 108th among all FBS teams. Texas Tech, because that defense is so good, can still win handily, can still put scores up on that scoreboard for voters and committee members that are going to make you feel impressed. But if you want to say, like, what's missing, they have got to do a better job when the field gets small of finding ways to get 7 and not settling for 3.
And again, quarterback Will Hammond, the backup that was a hero against Utah, not going to be the safety net that Texas Tech will have moving forward down the rest of the season. So we'll keep tabs on the Red Raiders. How about the ACC and Louisville? Louisville losing to Cal. You drop them 5 spots, and I'm reminded it's almost like A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe trying to figure out this ACC situation, Brandon.
Yeah, listen, Jeff Brom, I always have thought is one of the top 15 coaches in America. But if you watch that game, the late game situations where they have a chance to end up winning that game and they're throwing a short pass, they don't have any timeouts remaining, and they're trying to rush the line to spike the ball. Just some weird clock management and some coaching issues there. And then in overtime, I just didn't like the play calls at all in that game. It was just, I was scratching my head the entire time watching the end of that. But again, I was like, how much of this is just the regular ACC chaos we always see every year? But at this point, Cal is obviously a bowl team. They just got the bowl victory here with an incredible quarterback in JKS. But this is a team you should beat, especially one that has to travel across the country. I don't care how well Cal has been playing of late. Louisville has a lot on the future on the line here for them. They have a chance to go to the ACC championship game. They have a chance to go to the college football playoff. And you put up a performance like that and then also just make some weird coaching decisions in a tight space in a game like that does not lead me to a lot of confidence for them going down the stretch here, even if they are in that ACC championship game.
Yeah, Brandon, I don't know how Jeff Brom feels about his quarterback right now, because he did not mention Miller Moss by name, but Jeff Brom was livid in the post-game press conference after that game. The execution failures, I don't know if it's preparation. You know, he can't blame the offensive coordinator. He is the offensive coordinator. But Jeff Brom made it very clear that the issues that we saw against Cal, the things that prevented Louisville from being able to hang on to what was a very good spot in the ACC title race, you know, those were things that I think he's been noticing already. They've got an offensive line that can really struggle. Run game obviously took a hit. And, yeah, the inconsistencies with Miller Moss have made this offense very, very frustrating, very boom or bust all season long. And I don't hear confidence from the Louisville head coach that the Cardinals have the kind of team to be able to go on a run and have this be a good season. Yet, because of their record, because of where they are, all of their goals are still ahead of them. But man, yeah, I'm just, my radar, my vibes, like all of it's just really starting to look a little static coming from Louisville, Kentucky, because when even the head coach is not exuding confidence in what you're doing on the field, it's not a great sign when that's happening in mid-November.
They opened that week as nearly 3 touchdown favorites against Cal. Now, look, there was some Cal money, but certainly nobody had Cal money line to win that thing, and certainly at home for Louisville, that was an egg that they laid there, no doubt about it.